Yeah. You're obviously not an American. We love to not think. But you know, I used to do a show called Politically Incorrect back in the 90s, and, thank you. Oh, the 90s, we remember them. And so I was always asked, what is your definition of political correctness? And I had to come up with one. I said, it's the elevation of sensitivity over truth, which seems like what it still is, except it's worse than ever.
It's more like the elevation of moral posturing about sensitivity over truth. It's even worse.
Yeah. So where did it come from? How did we get to this place where we're so fragile, the safe space people?
Oh, I think that you can pretty much blame it on the universities. I think that they've pursued, especially in the humanities and in the social sciences as well, they've pursued a policy of a radical leftist policy with an overlay of postmodernism, which kind of a literary criticism approach that's produced all of this. As far as I can tell, I think you can lay a lot of it at the feet of faculties like the faculties of education. There was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education this week that just devastated the faculties of education, taking them to task for low academic standards and for possession by ideology and for basically indoctrinating people in a cult-like manner and playing identity politics and group.
In this segment, Jordan Peterson joins Bill Maher to dissect the rising influence of political correctness and its unintended consequences. Both thinkers argue that the cultural push toward extreme sensitivity has come at the cost of truth, clarity, and honest discourse. They express concern that the modern emphasis on avoiding offense, especially in public discourse, has made it increasingly difficult to engage in meaningful dialogue. Peterson points to universities, particularly departments in the humanities and social sciences, as central hubs for what he calls ideologically driven postmodernism. According to him, this worldview promotes emotional comfort over open intellectual inquiry, stifling students' ability to handle difficult ideas. Maher agrees, noting that this shift isn't fostering progress, it's creating an echo chamber. What makes this discussion particularly compelling is that Maher's audience is largely composed of the very individuals Peterson critiques. This sets the stage for a subtle but important clash of worldviews between the audience and the guests, raising the question, can we prioritize truth while still remaining empathetic?
Likes it, but I mean, it's nasty, and they're considering suspending her. And here's what the president of the university said. He said this was beyond free speech. This was disrespectful. Have we lost the thread back to knowing what free speech is? Yes, it can be disrespectful. That is covered under free speech. President of Fresno, you idiot. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, and you see this too. I think where it's manifesting itself in a particularly appalling manner is in the increasing unwillingness of comedians, for example, to go on university.
Jordan Peterson and Bill Maher take a strong stance in defense of free speech, arguing that its purpose is not to protect agreeable or polite conversation, but to safeguard the kind of speech that challenges, disrupts, and even offends. They emphasize that offense is an inevitable byproduct of open dialogue, and should not be confused with a violation of anyone's rights. Both push back against the growing trend of labeling offensive comments as attacks on free speech, pointing out that the First Amendment is meant to shield individuals from government censorship, not from being disagreed with or criticized. By blurring a line between hurt feelings and actual harm, they warn that society risks overreach, where even basic disagreement is viewed as hostility. They argue this mindset encourages self-censorship, where individuals hold back their thoughts out of fear of backlash, thus undermining the very principles of democratic dialogue. The pair highlight how this cultural misunderstanding is particularly strong in academic and media spaces where emotional comfort is increasingly prioritized over critical thinking and truth-seeking. Their core message is clear: defending speech, even when it's uncomfortable, is essential for any free society.
The way to make people secure is to protect them from things that they don't want to encounter. And
right.
There isn't a clinician, like I'm a trained clinical psychologist, and there isn't a clinician in the country who's worth his or her salt that would ever make that claim. Because you don't make people, first of all, it's hard to make people safe because life is seriously not safe.
Yes.
And the way that you make people resilient is by exposing them to things that they're afraid of and that make them uncomfortable voluntarily, but you use exposure.
Right.
And And so, like, if you over coddle people, if you protect them from everything that's sharp, you make them dull and stupid and narcissistic, and it's a really bad idea.
So you do know America.
Jordan Peterson critiques the popular idea of safe spaces, environments where individuals are shielded from viewpoints or discussions that might make them feel uncomfortable. He argues that while the intent behind these spaces may be to protect, a long-term effect is often harmful. Shielding people, especially students, from intellectual or emotional discomfort denies them the opportunity to build resilience. Peterson insists that growth, whether personal or intellectual, only happens when people are challenged. Avoiding discomfort, in his view, leads to stagnation. He warns that creating a culture of overprotection fosters emotional fragility and intellectual immaturity. Peterson even goes as far as to suggest that this mindset is contributing to a broader societal weakness, where people lack the tools to confront difficult truths or navigate real-world challenges. His call to action is for institutions, especially educational ones, to resist the urge to overprotect and instead focus on preparing individuals to face adversity with courage and critical thinking. True development, he argues, comes from confronting challenges, not avoiding them.
Anything that would make you not like them. That's what I've been thinking for years when I call them the fuck you mom generation. When I see kids, never in life because I never go near a child, but like on TV and movies, I see kids like saying fuck you mom. And I'm like, if somebody who wasn't your child did that, you'd be immensely offended, whereas the parents just take it. What's up with that?
Well, people don't like to admit that they can dislike their children or children in general, and right.
No, I know what you mean. And
but they can.
No, they totally can.
One of the things you see very commonly as a clinical psychologist is family members who hate each other, and who it's like they have their hands around each other's necks for 20 years and are squeezing very slowly, trying to strangle each other. And you see parents who clearly detest their children and have ever since they were born. And part of that, I know it's a terrible way of looking at things, but it's true.
It's so true.
And one of the things...
No, parents confide that in me because I don't have kids.
Yeah.
In a particularly powerful segment, Jordan Peterson turns his attention to parenting and the long-term impact of modern child-rearing philosophies. He argues that many parents today hesitate to assert authority out of fear that they might stifle their child's creativity or independence. However, Peterson believes this reluctance often does more harm than good. He stresses the importance of teaching children to be likable, respectful, and socially adaptable, skills that are essential for success in life. Without appropriate boundaries and consistent discipline, children may struggle to develop the emotional intelligence and social awareness needed to thrive. Peterson warns that neglecting this responsibility can lead to kids who are poorly equipped to handle rejection, frustration, or failure, common experiences in adult life. He emphasizes that setting limits isn't about control, but about love and responsibility. Raising strong, well-adjusted individuals means helping them build discipline and empathy from an early age. His message to parents is simple but clear. Prepare your children for the real world, not just for comfort.